Hello, once again, NASCAR fans. Welcome back to another episode of the NASCAR Show here on The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. I'm Alex Gray, along here with Michael Klein to discuss some off-season news, among other things. Let's go ahead and get started. So, first thing that occurred last night involving a NASCAR driver, Kyle Larson, winning the Chili Bowl, a very popular dirt racing event that takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Kyle Larson saying, basically, he said, "I'm sorry, NASCAR, I'm sorry, Daytona, but I've always wanted to win the Chili Bowl." This is basically like his number one crown jewel. This is basically the Daytona 500 for him. So
you say this is the most popular dirt racing event. I'm sorry, this is the granddaddy of all races. I mean, what other event do you have where you have people from IndyCar, NASCAR, NHRA, really just any type of American motorsport, and you bring them all under one roof and put them all against each other? I mean, to win this, you really have to be the best.
Yeah, I think you make a very valid point, actually. I think you make a very valid point, honestly. And sorry to put this in an analogy, but it almost feels like it's Super Smash Ultimate, but in racing, because you make a good point, because drivers from all over come to compete in this event. I mean, we see it alone with several NASCAR drivers that competed in it, like Chase Briscoe, Ryan Newman, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, among others. So, yeah, I think you're right there. It is the granddaddy of all racing events. And it's something I've always wanted to watch, and I've either forgotten or I've at least heard of it. So I was glad I was able to actually sit down and check it out last night, check out that big final race where it was Larson and Bell for most of the race, too. The two of them really put on a heck of a show.
Yeah, it's come down to them the past few years, but Bell has always ended up, getting the advantage over him. But, now with this whole team change, because, they both used to drive for Keith Kunz Motorsports, and over the off-season, Christopher Bell moved over to Tucker Boat, which is actually owned by Chad Boat, who, if you don't know, used to be a NASCAR driver, and Kyle Larson started running his own team, so, you both had them move over, and Larson has just been dominant with this new team. He's won, I think, every race except one or two of them in this new team he has. And also, just want to give a shout-out to Thomas Meserol. He's one of my friends and teammates over at K1 Race Gear. He actually had to fly back to Indianapolis for family issues after his prelim night on Thursday, and just barely got back in time for the A-Main on Saturday, and he'd moved his way up to 5th, and then he got caught up in someone else's mess and went to the back, and he still fought his way back up to 12th after being on his lead. So I definitely think you got to give credit where it's due there.
Oh, certainly. I agree with you. That takes a lot out of you, and he raced his tail off despite everything, so definitely give him credit there. Anything else regarding the Chili Bowl at all?
Yeah, just another, I listened to Rip the Fence, and, they did a thing called the Hat Shake where they gave shout-outs to certain drivers. Got to give my hat shake to Ken and McIntosh. I got to know him at PRI. He's a really good kid. He just turned 17. He finished third up there with Larson and Bell, and only his second ever Chili Bowl. So, I mean, just being able to make the A-Main, in your second year is a feat on its own. But to come away with a podium is absolutely incredible.
I agree. Excuse me. That was the results of the Chili Bowl. And then next weekend is the Rolex 24 at Daytona. So a lot of racing going on before NASCAR actually kicks into high gear next month, which is just a little less than a month from now when Speed Weeks rolls around. Let's see here. In terms of silly season news, Tommy Joe Martins has confirmed that he's got all but I think 3 or 4 races sponsored for his family-ran organization that's going to run in Xfinity next season. So very good news to hear from that. But the biggest one that a lot of people are talking about, we talked about it last week as well, and that is the Gaunt Brothers Racing Team. Parker Kligerman has confirmed he is not going to be back with the Gaunt Brothers team, in which they were running part-time with the 96. And now it looks like more and more likely that is where Daniel Suarez is going to end up. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, excited to see him back under the Toyota fold. And, like I said, Coca-Cola still plans on backing him. So hopefully this is still a good team for him to be with. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's with an underfunded team. They're not going to be able to do well. Just throwing this out there, they've never run the full season. And, I mean, they're probably going to have more Toyota backing now with them being full-time and having such a big-name driver as Daniel Suarez. And when you have as big a partner as Coke with you, that's definitely going to help your performance, I think. So, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire, possibly making it to the playoffs for the first time. Yeah, you can definitely throw that possibility out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this could be a situation, too, where Germain Racing in 2010, 2011, they brought in Casey Mears. And, they brought him in to basically help kind of like develop the team a bit more as the years went out. I can kind of see that here. Suarez can come in and help build up the Gaunt Brothers Racing team, the 96 team. And as you said, yeah, I think TRD would be willing to put in a little bit more to GBR if they're going to go full-time with Suarez, have Coca-Cola back him up. And I don't know if RS is still tied with Jokic Racing or if they could still stick with Suarez, but if they come in too, that's going to help even more. Alrighty, so the biggest thing I wanted to discuss here in today's show was basically predictions for 2020. I think everyone is everyone's about making their predictions now at this point, so it's probably time to hop on the bandwagon and see what we think is going to happen across NASCAR in 2020. Shall I go ahead and start?
Sure.
All righty. So among some predictions I put down, hopefully I'm not jinxing this one. The first prediction I put down, I think Jimmy Johnson has one win left in him, and I think he will win a race in his final season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would say at least one more.
Yeah, I think he will get one more, and I do believe he will also make the playoffs as a result of that. I could see the possibility of 4 first-time Cup winners in 2020. I put down William Byron, Cole Custer, Christopher Bell, and Matt DiBenedetto as possible first-time winners.
Yeah, that sounds about right. May throw Suarez in there too.
Yeah, I think Suarez can definitely shock some people with the 96, because I think the 96 could put in some good runs, especially if they get more a little bit more support. Let's see, I have Daniel Hemrick. I think he has about 22 races scheduled to run for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. I predict Daniel Hemrick will win a race finally in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, definitely want to see that.
Mm-hmm. Especially the Xfinity Series this coming season. When you eliminate all the races that Kyle Busch is going to win and Keselowski and Logano and whoever else, I think it's wide open. Last year you had 3 dominant drivers, but I think this year it's going to be much more wide open. A little bit fewer competitive cars too, especially with the Xfinity Series. I did put down like the 12 drivers that I thought was going to make the playoffs. If you want me to go ahead and list them.
Go right ahead.
Alrighty. I got Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, Justin Haley, Brandon Jones, Justin Allgaier, Michael Annett, Noah Gragson, Mike Snyder, Riley Herbst, Harrison Burton, Ryan Sieg.
All right, the one thing I would say there is Mike Snyder, because I don't think he's running the full season.
Oops. I wasn't
I
sure because I got things mixed up with Snyder and a couple other things, because I don't think RCR is running the 2 this year.
Yeah, but yeah, I think he's splitting that ride with Anthony Alfredo.
That's right. He's splitting the ride with Anthony Alfredo. Well, as things are starting to formation a bit more, I do apologize for that mix-up. Who would be a good choice to fill in that spot?
That's actually a good question. With all these drivers leaving, you're going to have to go into some of the underfunded drivers, and it's just thinking of who in that pool would be able to pull it off. You had...
Go ahead.
I know a lot of people will probably say the 08 with Joe Graff, just because of how close Greg Galding came. I don't see that happening, just because, with my opinion, I just don't see how he's got that ride. He's one of those guys who's there just because his dad's rich. He is nowhere near the caliber driver Greg Galding is. And, I know it sounds like I'm being harsh on him, but, that's just what I've noticed. Actually, did you mention Riley Herbst in that? Or?
Yeah, I did. He's driving full-time Xfinity, right?
Yeah, I know. I just didn't know if I had heard that. So, when it comes to that, I don't know. You could maybe bring up somebody like Jeremy Clements as possibly getting his way in there, or maybe one of the JD Motorsport guys.
Yeah, I was going to say Jeremy Clements or perhaps a JD Motorsports car could sneak their way into the playoffs as well.
Yeah, because, I think you still have Garrett Smithley, which I would love to see him get there. Garrett's been a good friend of mine for a few years, so definitely love to see him start to have that success. And you also have Jesse Little, I think, who's running full-time with the JD, so that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, so even then, those last couple of spots for the playoff field in the Xfinity Series is going to be fun to watch, especially for those smaller teams like JD or Jeremy Clements to try and sneak their way in.
Yeah, we still don't know about RCR's number 2 car. They still could bring that back.
Yeah,
you just never know.
Yeah, because it was originally thought that Suarez could potentially land a deal where he could run, I think, full-time in Xfinity and then part-time Cup for RCR, but supposedly that deal fell through, which would most likely cause him to move over to Gaunt Brothers. But thank you for the correction. Moving on to some other predictions. I think Matt Crafton will see victory lane sometime in 2020. Obviously, things were a little controversial. He won the truck championship last year with no wins, and he hasn't won a truck race since, I think, 2017. So it's been a while, but I think Matt Crafton will find victory lane in 2020.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that. I could definitely see him finally getting back into victory lane.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the Xfinity Series. It almost feels like the Truck Series could potentially be a bloodbath this year. You got 8 spots, and I think you're going to get a lot of drivers who are competing and really trying to prove themselves, a lot of them in their sophomore, some of them in their freshman seasons, running in the Truck Series too.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Ben back in the series. I definitely love to see him finally get through to the Final Four. But, now that we don't have Brennan Poole in this series, that shouldn't be an issue for him.
Yeah, Brennan Poole moving up to Cup Series to drive for Predi Motorsports.
But we know he's not going to be relevant. Being real.
Yeah, it's unfortunately one of the smaller teams running in the back, unless I don't know, another Spire Motorsports moment happens at Daytona again. But most likely, of course, Predi Motorsports, one of those teams that really runs in the back of the field. Looking at the Truck Series playoffs, I had a really hard time trying to figure out who I really thought would make the playoffs, because I really feel like things are going to shake up. I feel like there's at least 12 to 14 drivers that can win, and There's only 8 spots. So I can say this.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about the truck series is that, you have so many competitive trucks out there, and yet you have so few playoff spots open. So,
yeah,
it's just one of those deals that it's going to be a real bloodbath.
And not to mention, I don't know if we announced, if we talked about this last week, but Todd Gilliland is going to run in the truck series again this year for Front Row Motorsports, in which they will get an alliance with DGR Crosley. That one kind of surprised me. I thought Todd would potentially run for DGR's truck team, especially that we haven't heard much about who's going to drive DGR's truck team. We know, I think, Tanner Gray is going to run the 15, but besides that, we haven't really heard much. So I'm kind of amazed that Front Row took out the third Cup team, moved their charter to Rick Ware, and decided to form this truck team.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see that one coming. I'm just glad that we're still going to see Todd Gilliland in the series full time. Hopefully with that DGR Crosley alliance, they'll still be running up front.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a little bit salty with Kyle Busch over just dumping Gilliland. But.
Oh, yeah. People still like to make the joke that it had to do with Todd Gilliland telling Kyle Busch to stay in his motorhome after winning at Martinsville.
Yeah.
All right. Another prediction here. Speaking of Kyle Busch, I predict he has 96 career Xfinity wins, and he says after 100 he's done Xfinity racing. So I predict in the 7 races he'll run. Yeah, in the 7 races he'll run, he will get win number 100. Because he won.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch will hit number 100. Let's face it. Whether we like him or hate him, he is the best driver in NASCAR right now. He's a guy who's practically won everything almost. So, going on with that, going back to the Truck Series, I'm going to shorten this down to my Championship 4 for the Truck Series. I got Stuart Friesen, who their team's moving over to Toyota with a KBM alliance, so I think they could potentially be dangerous. Brett Moffitt, I got, and I'm going to shake things up here a little bit, Tyler Ankrum, who's moving over to GMS. And lastly, that final spot, I'm kind of torn between Crafton, Sauter, and Christian Eckes. One of those 3 drivers.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't say Eckes, simply because he's a rookie. How competitive the series is, it's going to be tough for him to just get to the Final 4. Of course, he'd better if he hopes to keep that Kyle Busch ride for more than a year. So.
Yeah, especially probably make the playoffs too, since Harrison.
I think he'll make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's going to be in the Final 4.
Yeah.
I'm still holding on to hope that Rhodes gets in. I would say I probably agree with what you said, except for maybe Ankrum. I would kind of be choosing between him or Creed.
Yeah. I think GMS is loaded this season. They look loaded.
Oh yeah.
They got Ankrum, Creed, and Smith and Moffitt. That's a dangerous lineup, in my opinion. So there's a chance that half the truck playoff field could be GMS. So that's going to be interesting to see. Ankrum kind of broke out last season with that win at Kentucky. To me, Ankrum could be a sleeper driver. But yeah, I'm with you. I do hope Ben Rhodes can get back into the playoffs this year and make a run for a championship. Because even when he won at Kentucky in 2018, he kind of talked about how sometimes they just ran into the worst of luck, in which I can tell, sometimes in racing it's about luck. And sometimes luck wasn't on Rhodes' side, but we'll see if potentially he can turn it around this season.
Yeah, I just want to know what his number is going to be. Seems like they change it every year. So.
Yeah, because it was like 41, then 27, and then 99, and it's just like, I wonder why they keep changing his number, or why he keeps changing the number. That's an interesting question to ask if we ever get him on here.
Hey, that'd actually be a good idea. We should try to do that.
Yeah, let's get Ben on here. That'd be great.
I'll be in Daytona, so I'll ask him.
All right. And in terms of the truck champion, I'm going to say either Frierson or Moffitt takes it home. I know it's kind of weird for me to point out Frierson, but I just feel like with the KBM alliance and getting those couple finally breaking out with those wins last season, it's likely.
Yeah, no, nothing weird about that. I would have put Frierson up there too.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. In terms of my Xfinity Championship board, because I didn't bring that up before, I have Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, and that last spot, I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier.
Yeah, like I said, I'd probably agree with you on that too, except for maybe Chastain, simply because Colleague isn't necessarily the top running team.
Right.
And I'm not saying I doubt him. I definitely think he could. It's just being realistic. I would say maybe in a year or two, you could see him getting to the championship 4.
Yeah.
For that final spot, I would honestly probably say somebody like maybe Gregson or Burton, just because I feel like they're due for a breakout. And honestly, Burton has done really good in the Xfinity Series in the races that he's run. So I definitely expect to see him getting pretty far up there.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think Colleague Racing is certainly a team on the rise. Not there just yet. I still think Chastain and Haley can still potentially get in the victory lane. And especially in terms of Noah Gragson, that 48 is going to be open for 2021. And it's a big question mark who takes it. And I think a lot of people think it's going to be Gragson. And he definitely is due for a breakout season this year. So I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Noah Gragson this season. And the 2020 Xfinity Series champion, I'm going to say Chase Briscoe. I think Chase Briscoe will be the champion for the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, I would just personally love to see that.
Yeah. And to add on to that, I also predict for 2021, I think he will drive the 14 in the Cup Series, replace Clint Boyer, especially if Boyer doesn't make the pole this year. So, let's see here. I already mentioned a couple of these things. Trying to read whatever else. Oh, yeah. I added a bonus prediction because obviously we go to the Kentucky Speedway races. So I kind of put in a prediction of who I think is going to win the Quaker State 400. But I'll start with you. Who do you think is going to win Kentucky this year?
Man, honestly, kind of a hard question. It's honestly always hard for me to pick a winner for races, before the season even starts, just because you don't know what everyone's doing, how everyone's running.
Right.
But right now, just because I think he's going to have a great season in NASCAR, I'm just going to say Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
He has been absolutely dominant so far in the off season. And so if he can carry that momentum, which, you can do that, over to NASCAR, I think he's in for a breakout year, possibly even getting to the championship 4.
Yeah, I think Larson's going to be a driver to keep all eyes on for 2020, especially if he can, as you said, if he can carry that all the dirt racing momentum into the Cup season. I think he's due for a breakout season. 2018, no wins. Last year, finally got the win at Dover. So I think we're going to see Kyle Larson in victory lane more in 2020. I agree with you on that. Let's see. Okay. Here's the big one. The Cup Series playoffs. And this one was difficult because I know Iceberg and a few others also did like a tier, one of those tier systems of like Championship 4, playoffs, mid-pack, and I forgot one of the categories, mid-pack, in the back, and then the back markers kind of. In terms of the 16 drivers, here is who I have. I have Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Brian Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Jimmy Johnson, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Alex Bowman, and I'm going to say Cole Custer.
Sounds pretty good. Did you have Christopher Bell in there?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I would say that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to throw, because I mentioned earlier that Max Benedetto, I think he'll get a win, but I'm also kind of on the fence of does he make the playoffs or not. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to be really close. Basically what I'm thinking here. But anyway, another driver that I think could also get in is Chris Buescher. I think he'll put up some good numbers in the 17, and I think there's a chance he could potentially get to the playoffs. It's just a really competitive field. We'll have to see what happens.
All right.
And
yeah, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Championship 4, I have Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and I also have, for the 4th driver, Joey Logano. And I think the 2020 Cup Series champion, I think, will be Denny Hamlin. I think Hamlin will finally get that championship.
All right. Personally, what I would go with is, of course, you're probably going to have Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin, and I do want to say Larson. I would put Truex in, probably over Logano.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean with Truex.
Just my opinion.
Yeah. I think the biggest question I'm willing to see with Truex especially is because Cole Pern left. So, he's still got great equipment. He's still going to win. No doubt about it. He's still one of the best drivers out there. I'm just interested to see how different his performance could potentially be with a new crew chief.
Yeah, what I'm hoping is that he can win the 500. Then, they can just kind of spend the rest of the year, working over everything, getting the chemistry right.
Oh, yeah.
Just so when it comes playoff time, hopefully they're back up there to where they were with Pern.
Yeah. That would certainly be a really good case scenario for the 19 team. So we'll see what happens then. Threw in Kyle Larson because obviously I think both of us believe he can have a breakout year. I picked Hamlin because I just feel like he had a great season in 2019. I think he'll have a great season again in 2020. And he won at Phoenix. That got him into the Championship 4. And where's the championship race this year? Phoenix. So that's kind of why I based my Cup champion prediction off of that.
Yeah. Tell you what's crazy, though, is that beginning of the year we were talking about how poor of a season Larson was having, and then he turned it around into one of his best yet.
Mm-hmm. I remember going into the 2019 season before Daytona, some people were suggesting that, if Hamlin doesn't have a great season again, doesn't get any wins, Christopher Bell could replace him. And then he wins the Daytona 500. That shut everyone up. So Denny Hamlin's arguably the best active driver in the Cup Series without a championship. So it would be cool for him to
maybe best of all time.
Yeah, it almost feels like he's having a Mark Martin-like career where he's almost won everything but a championship. Of course, Mark Martin did not win a Daytona 500. Hamlin's won it twice. But, yeah, I believe I picked him to win it when the championship before rolled around this past season. So I think Hamlin will seek redemption. I think he'll win the championship.
All right.
All righty. Let's see here.
We got to talk about Indy.
Indy? Yeah, we need to talk about Indy. That's right. So some big news rolled out because this year, the July 4th weekend, will be at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Brickyard 400. Roger Penske is wasting really no time in making some interesting moves for the track. The NASCAR Xfinity Series race that weekend will actually be ran on the road course at Indianapolis and not the oval itself. I think I remember hearing rumors last year that they were trying to test it out. Matt Benedetto this coming week will he'll run a test session on a couple different configurations and figure out which configuration is the best. But I want to hear your opinion on, is this a great move, or is this where time will tell? What do you think of this shakeup?
Well, if you were to ask me, I would have said let's move the Xfinity Series back to Lucas Oil Raceway, just because I'm a short track guy through and through. But I'm definitely excited to see where this goes. Hopefully it is a bit of an improvement. Honestly, I thought the Xfinity race this year was pretty exciting. You had a pretty good battle. It seemed like pretty good battles all throughout the race. But when you throw a road course in the mix, then I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. By the way, did you hear about what day Benedetto would be testing?
I think I heard like Wednesday or something like that.
Man, I was thinking, I may see if I could head out to that if it's open to the public, but I'm working Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. I'm working Wednesday, too. Because so...
Oh, well, I'm going to Indianapolis on Saturday anyway, so...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm heading to the Circle Track Expo.
Okay.
And then USAC has an event that I guess I'm going to go check out.
Nice. Yeah, I'm hopeful that I could go to the Brickyard 400 weekend this year, since it's the weekend before Kentucky as well. So it would be great if I can go to back-to-back NASCAR weekends. I don't think I've ever done that. So I like the time.
I'm looking at possibly doing 3 within 1 month here, which I've never done more than 3 in a year. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be at Chicagoland for the ARCA event, and then I'm probably gonna be racing the USAC event at Route 66 that week. And so I was thinking, oh, heck, I'm going to be there Saturday night anyway. I might as well just stay for the Cup race Sunday and then head back after that. And, then, of course, you got Indy, which I plan on running the USAC event there, too. And, of course, the week after that is Kentucky, which, I'm not going to miss that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not missing Kentucky.
I'm looking at possibly doing probably up to 10 Cup races this year.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll definitely be down in Daytona for the Clash and the 500.
Cool.
And hopefully we can do Bristol again. Possibly ISM. I'd like to do that, and Talladega.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I like to do Kentucky and Indy. I wouldn't mind potentially going to Michigan or Chicagoland. Potentially, if I can go back to Gateway again and do the Truck ARCA doubleheader.
And IndyCar now, too.
IndyCar, yeah. And IndyCar, so that's going to be a good weekend. And let's see, IRP, ARCA would be great, because as you mentioned, I personally believe Xfinity and Truck should go back to IRP.
Actually, I just want to point this out there to anybody listening who may know someone who is willing to sponsor a race team. I'm looking to run both the BC39 and the ARCA event, on 3 consecutive nights. So if anybody knows anyone who'd want to sponsor me for that, feel free to give either one of us a message.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely, I definitely want to see if I can help you out find someone that could be interested in sponsoring you.
Yeah, and, if it's in Indianapolis, hopefully there's quite a few people who would be interested in that. Especially now that they moved the ARCA race back to NASCAR weekend, because you're going to have a lot of those fans going over there.
Yeah. Especially, I think Bob Cockris put this idea of, what if you had that entire week, or basically I took kind of that idea and made this idea. So, what if during this entire weekend you had ARCA, Truck, and Xfinity run at IRP? Friday and Saturday, they get a fun 3-day event, and then, or Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, and then try a double-header weekend at Indy. So run the Indy road course one day and the oval the next day. Trying to mix things up that way and make this a fun race weekend for Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good idea. I'd like to see them possibly, run trucks and Xfinity, maybe even Cup at IRP midweek, and then head over to the big track for the weekend and run there.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that'll go. Especially Roger Penske also hinted that fan response and media response will dictate kind of what they will do, especially for next year. He kind of hinted maybe Xfinity runs the oval and Cup runs the road course, kind of like that. I don't know if I want the Cup Series to run on the road course though, just because the Brickyard 400 has kind of turned into a crown jewel event.
Well, yeah, but if the fans like it, it'd be something worth trying. What if we had a doubleheader weekend where you had one day on the Roval, the next day you had it on the oval?
Yeah,
that's what I'd like to see.
I'd like to see that too, actually, because obviously Pocono's running a doubleheader this year. I think you could do that with Indianapolis potentially in the future, especially that historic of a venue that it really is. It could really boost the entire race weekend. Alrighty. So, anything else you need to cover, or anything involving your racing career at all?
No. I think we just about got everything we needed to.
Alrighty. And besides that, I don't think there is any other bits of news in terms of the NASCAR world. And besides that, I think we will go ahead and close up shop for the time being. I want to thank everyone so much for listening to this week's edition of the NASCAR Show on The Grueling Truth. We will be back next week to discuss any more news that will be occurring. And before we know it, it'll be time for Speed Weeks. From Michael Klein and myself, Alex Gray, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.